Good morning, Ben Jones from Badger from Bronson Coffee Roasters here in my home coffee workshop again. Let me turn off my kettle real quick. Sorry, it's a little noisy. Today is Monday, the first day of June 2020. Big sigh. All right. I like a good pair of socks. I really like a good pair of socks. I like coffee. How many of you remember our videos on brewing coffee with unusual items? Things you just have sitting around the kitchen, odds and ends from the garage or the pantry. I really like a good pair of socks. I like a good pair of socks so much that I would not make a cup of coffee with those socks. But I will use this little fella right here. For anyone who's if you've ever traveled Central and South America, you've probably seen this. This is commonly known as the Costa Rican coffee sock. My Spanish is really awful, so I'm not even going to try to pronounce these things in Spanish. So if you calcetina, maybe, I don't remember. Anyway, I need to learn it. The coffee sock, commonly referred to as the Costa Rican coffee sock, is actually pretty common in a lot of places. I mean, this thing pops up everywhere. It's just a very easy way to make coffee. We have sometimes a cotton or a wool, some type of felted material that makes a big sock and has a wire frame around it. Then there's an additional piece you can get. You can get this little stand. I really like the simplicity of this. It's just some type of wooden base. There's wire bent and twisted and then mounted. So it makes a real easy and convenient way to brew coffee. So I'm just going to look at a few different things that we can do with the with this brewer. Let's go back and discuss briefly a principle of making coffee, principle of brewing. We're doing just a few very simple pieces. We take some water. I like it best when it's hot water. We take some ground coffee beans that have been roasted well. We mix those together, give them some time for certain flavors to be pulled out of those ground coffees, and then we use some type of method to separate the grounds from the flavored liquid, the delicious beverage that we then refer to as coffee. Lots of ways to separate that out and filter it. We've discussed the Melita filters. We've discussed the Chemex. We've discussed the AeroPress. There's the French press. Many ways to do this. Even when Bob's doing his Wednesday cuppings, if you joined us for any of those, the breaking of the top of that crust, forcing the grounds to settle to the bottom, that separates the grounds from the beverage so you can then drink it out with a spoon. So this just becomes our method of separating, which leads us into one of the ways to make coffee with this. So I didn't bring a pot into my working shop, a little kettle or a cooking pot. But one of the ways people do it is they'll just take, we'll pretend this is a stovetop pot. You'll just mix your ground coffee and your water, and you'll just boil that and let it simmer on the stove for however long you like. And then you take your pot and your cup and you pour that coffee through into there. That's a way to do it. You're filtering it out. Another method is just take your mug, put your coffee sock in there, add your coffee grounds, pour your water, and let that steep. And this one's kind of cool because it's a full immersion. It lets all that coffee and the water sit together. And then when you're ready, you can lift it out and let it finish draining. I really like coffee brewers that let you control that steep time. I really like pour overs too, where it just gravity feeds through. But when we can have a little more control over how long it steeps, we can get a more consistent cup of coffee. We can tweak and dial in our specific flavor profiles better, reducing carbony bitterness, increasing sugars, all those sorts of things. So those are two ways to use the sock brewer. But what I want to do is we're going to do a pour over style. So I'm going to put the sock brewer stand on my scale. I'm going to go ahead and put the filter up here. Some things that people say about these. Some people say you should always use a clean one, clean and dry. So they recommend getting 2 or 3 or 4 different brewers so you can wash them and then let them dry. I suppose that always came from, if you use a wet one, the grounds will stick to the side. Here's my funnel, because I will make a mess if I don't. I'm just going to add in 19 grams of our Ethiopia naturally processed Guji Sidamo. We're going to go with that blueberry muffin, super fruity profile. All right, so I have my fresh coffee in here, all brought up down to there. Got my stand. I'll put my cup underneath, and I'm going to use a scale just because that lets me control my water really easily and really well. All right. Well, just as we always do, we'll start with a little bit of a bloom. There we go. Try to get all that ground coffee nice and wet. And then let's just keep pouring some in. The grind that I've gone with today is just a medium grind, drippy, kind of drip grind. I don't like that. I'm seeing a little dry spot there. Cool thing about the sock is you can take it and you can, there we go. Dry spot in the sock means a dry spot in the coffee. If you don't want to use your hands, chopstick is a great tool. And give that a little. Here we go, just keep that going. If I put 19 grams in, I want my brew water to be 19 times 17. That gives us 323. However, the sock material, the cotton or the wool that you're using, it's going to absorb quite a bit of water. So I'm going to go ahead and push my water volume probably to 350. I'm just going to toss in about an extra ounce of water to account for what the cloth filter itself is going to absorb, because I didn't do a pre-rinse. Another benefit of pre-rinsing your filter is that you don't lose any water. All right. We are at 305 grams of water. 2 minutes and 20 seconds into the brew. Josh was asking if pre-dunking the filter in some water would help with the contact dryness. Quite likely, quite possibly. I didn't do a pre-rinse on this simply because when I learned to do it, I was told don't use a wet one. Not the end of the world if you do or don't. I'll probably start using a pre-wetted filter next time I do this. All right, we're just shy of 350 grams. I'll just call that good. 3-minute brew time. At 3 minutes, with the size of grind that I used here, this should be a real nice cup of coffee. One of the benefits of using the cloth sock, the cloth filter, the coffee bag, whatever we're going to be calling them. The cloth really softens up your cup of coffee. It's very absorbent, and depending on the tightness of the weave and the specific materials, it can really pull out a lot of oils and a lot of fines. If you have a French press at home and that's your only coffee brew, but you really hate those fines, there are some techniques you can do in your brewing to kind of take out some of the body and some of that after coffee grit. Or you can, after brewing, filter it through a cloth filter. That'll cool your coffee off a little bit, and it takes a little extra time. But if you know, that's one of the benefits of the excuse me, of the cloth filter, is the clean cup profile that you get. All right, so there we go. We have a little cup of coffee. I'm gonna give my mug a little rinse and a preheat, just because when this is sitting out here in the workshop overnight, it gets a little chilly. So I want to heat that up. I don't want my coffee to get chilled right away. I want to have a nice warm hot cup of coffee. There we go, look at that. This is our Ethiopia Guji from the Sidamo region. It's nice and smooth. It's pretty tasty. It's a good cup of coffee. It's a good brewer. It's not very common. We don't see it around a lot. If you're at home and you have some anxious energy you need to burn off, these are fairly easy to make. A little sewing machine. If you don't have wire, you can use wire coat hangers if you still have any of those sitting around. It's just a nice little ring of wire. Put a little handle twisty on it there. And again, one of the ways to do this is just dunk that whole thing into your mug, pour all the coffee and water together, and do that. You can also just, instead of doing the boil on the stove thing, you could just mix hot water and grounds into a mug, just like we did on the cupping table, and then pour that through the sock. A lot of great options. It's pretty versatile in terms of the method that you can apply, but giving a really consistent profile. Yeah, it's a good cup of coffee. So Joshua chimes in. He says that he likes that it makes a natural cone via gravity. Yep, we got that nice little shape there. And yeah, and definitely the way it's sewed together is going to make that. It's a good geometry for brewing. Flat bottom, for all you flat bottom fans out there. Yeah, do it. Flat bottoms are great. Cones are great. I like to think back to the kind of the first car analogy that I've often used in our classes. When you have that car that the alignment is off, and you're the poor high school kid that just doesn't know how to take care of a car yet and didn't save the money for the maintenance. If your alignment's off pretty bad, you just know that you always have to adjust to the right a little bit. It's not great for a car, but with coffee, if you know that a specific brewer or a specific tool you're using has a little quirk to it, you can just kind of make a little adjustment. And as long as you're doing the same things, just like your car will track down the road and stay in lane, you can keep your coffee in lane. Thank you for a Monday morning. Very important if you're doing any type of cloth filter that you clean it out pretty well. Best way to do that is we'll just take this, and I don't have anything to do this into, so it's going to be I'm not going to make a huge mess on my countertop. Just turn it upside down into the compost, give it a rinse, and you really want to make sure you squeeze as much coffee out of there, get the water out of it. and then hang it up to dry. You don't want to have a wadded, wet coffee filter. That'll create mold and mildew problems. Some people put these in the fridge. I figure just rinse it out really well with some hot water and hang it up to let it dry. So just, a little hook on the thing and let it hang there. If you need one of these brewers, I know that Espresso Supply retails them on their website, and you can buy direct from Espresso Parts. I apologize. You can get your espresso supplies at Espresso Parts. Go to espressoparts.com. They've got the stock brewers. If you need some coffees, baddorfcoffee.com. We've got some good deals going on right now. Mostly that cup of coffee is a good deal. So, all right, everybody, thank you for joining. This is the Sock Brewer. Use an old favorite clean t-shirt if you need to. Cotton, wool, it's all good. All right. I see the Espresso Parts link is up. Thank you to whoever did that. That's fantastic. All right. I'm enjoying this. This is a nice cup of coffee. I haven't pulled that out in a long time. All right. Everybody have a great week. Be safe. Be good to each other. All right.